Alright, let's continue this sketching game, but this time, instead of being just a general function that goes on forever, we're given a specific domain, and that domain is 0 to 2 pi. So you don't want to go above it, don't want to go below it. Thankfully, this function's quite nice. No reflections have been made. A value is positive and B value is positive, so no reflections. So amplitude is going to be equal to absolute value of 2, which is just 2, and the period is going to be 2 pi on the absolute value of 3, which is just 2 pi on 3. So we've got all the important points, and because it's a cosine graph, it is going to start at a maximum. I always like to do really long x-axes for these ones. Just think it looks nicer. Although, you know, knowing me, it's not too nice. Now we're going to start at 0, and we need to get up to 2 pi. That's what the domain says. We need to go from 0 to 2 pi. But we know that the period isn't 2 pi, it's actually 2 pi on 3. So if I put in just like a temporary marker of that's pi, and then another temporary marker of that's pi on 3, and then 2 pi on 3. Well, we could continue that out, and we'd get 4 pi on 3, and then 5 pi on 3. Alrighty, so since it's a cosine, that means it's going to actually not start in the middle. It's actually going to start at the maximum. So let's put in my two amplitude lines. So one is going to be y is equal to 2, and the other is going to be y is equal to -2. And because it's cosine, it's going to start at a maximum. And because it repeats at 2 pi, it's going to repeat another maximum at 2 pi on 3. And then 2 pi on 3 again away is going to be 4 pi on 3. And the last maximum is going to appear at 2 pi exactly. So it's going to actually repeat lots of times. Now, in between that, it's actually going to... we need more points, because I've put these as points, but they shouldn't be points. They should actually be dashes. Pi on 3, 2 pi on 3, pi, 4 pi on 3, 5 pi on 3, 2 pi. Alrighty, so halfway between the two maximums is going to be a minimum, and halfway in between the maximum and the minimum is going to be a middle, and that goes on either side. Let me put my maximum a little bit more above. Alrighty, so I also need to label these points in between. So halfway between 0 and pi on 3 is going to be pi on 6, and halfway between pi on 3 and 2 pi on 3, weirdly enough, is actually pi on 2. Now it's a weird part, because if you count up, we get pi on 6, 2 pi on 6, 3 pi on 6, 4 pi on 6, 5 pi on 6, 6 pi on 6, is that they all simplify slightly differently. 2 pi on 6 simplifies to pi on 3, 3 pi on 6 simplifies to pi on 2, 4 pi on 6 simplifies to 2 pi on 3, 5 pi on 6 doesn't simplify, and 6 pi on 6 simplifies to pi, and that sort of pattern continues. So you'll notice that it is going to look a little bit strange when we go through and do it, but I do believe in us. So that's going to basically continue throughout this sort of game. So once again, halfway in between is going to be a minimum. This one's the next one. That's going to be 5 pi on 6. Next one is going to be here, and that's going to be at 7 pi on 6. 4 pi on 3. Now the next one would actually be 9 pi on 6, but again, that simplifies, and that's going to be 3 pi on 2, down to a minimum, and then a median, and then a maximum again. So these are our points, and you can see from there we can just connect, do a dot to dot. The only one I'm missing a label for is this is 7 pi on 6. Again, if you're unsure with, not 7 pi, it's going to be 11 pi on 6. If you're unsure of this, just keep writing this pattern forward and forward, plus pi on 6, plus pi on 6, plus pi on 6, and see how they simplify, because they all simplify in slightly different ways. Alrighty, so we can now connect the dot to dot. That dot in the center can go. And we go maximum to a median to a minimum, up to a medium, up to a maximum, down to a median, down to a minimum, up to a median, up to a maximum, down to a median, down to a minimum, up to a median, and up to a maximum. And there you can see, there is our sketch between 0 and 2 pi. And yes, it is a little bit difficult to look at. There's lots of values written on it. But the only thing we're really missing now is a label. And there is our function sketched. Does take a little bit of work, isn't super quick, but something with a bit of practice you'll be able to do, no worries. See you in the next one. Goodbye.